If you're like most DIY mechanics or hobby car owners, the thing you really want is a lift that just works, something you can roll out of the garage, set up without a PhD in engineering, and trust to hold your car safely while you change a tire, replace a brake line, or do a full engine swap. The fear of buying a lift that's either too flimsy, too complicated, or just a waste of space is real, and the wrong choice can leave you with a piece of metal that gathers dust while your project sits on the driveway. That's why I spent a good chunk of last weekend actually moving a QuickJack 8000TL around my shop, wiring it up, and running a couple of real-world tasks before I hit record. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the QuickJack 8000TL isn't a showroom piece. It's a portable, 8,000-pound capacity lift that comes with its own 110-volt power unit. The portable claim isn't just marketing fluff. The whole frame folds down to about the size of a large suitcase, and the weight is low enough that two people can carry it up a flight of stairs without a forklift. When you unpack it, the quick connect fittings snap into place in under a minute, which is exactly the kind of simplicity you want after a long day of work. I tested the setup in my two-car garage, which has a concrete slab and a low ceiling. The lift cleared the ceiling with about 6 inches to spare, meaning you don't need a dedicated high bay shop to use it. That's a big win for anyone who only has a standard home garage. Now, let's talk about who actually benefits from a machine like this. If you own a sedan, a small SUV, or even a light-duty pickup, the 8,000 pounds rating gives you a huge safety margin. I lifted a 2019 Subaru Outback, which tips the scales at roughly 3,600 pounds, and the lift held steady with no wobble, even when I rocked the wheels to check for play. The ALI certification adds a layer of confidence. It means the lift meets a recognized safety standard for automotive lifts, something you don't see on every cheap, imported unit. For hobbyists who enjoy swapping tires, changing oil, or doing brake work on a regular basis, the Quick Connect system saves you the hassle of threading bolts or using a wrench to secure the lift arms. It's also a solid choice for small auto repair businesses that need a flexible solution for a variety of vehicle sizes without committing to a permanent, floor-mounted lift. On the flip side, if you run a full-time shop that services heavy trucks, vans, or performance cars that tip the scale near the 7,500 pounds mark, you might find the 8,000 pounds limit a bit too close for comfort. The lift is designed for safety, but the margin is thin when you start adding a weight-shifting load like a loaded engine or a large aftermarket exhaust. In those scenarios, a higher capacity, floor-mounted lift would give you both more space and a bigger safety buffer. Likewise, if you live in an apartment building or a tiny rented garage where you can't store a 1,500 pounds piece of equipment, the QuickJack might still feel too bulky despite its portability. It's not a handheld jack. You still need a clear, flat surface and enough overhead clearance to raise a vehicle to a comfortable working height. Practical strengths become clearer once you start using the lift for everyday tasks. The hydraulic pump runs on standard 110V power, so you don't need a generator or a special outlet. I plugged it into a regular garage outlet and got the lift up to a 30-inch height in under 45 seconds, which is fast enough to keep a project moving without feeling like you're waiting for a slowpoke elevator. The pump's pressure gauge is clearly marked, and the release valve feels firm but not stiff. You can lower the vehicle smoothly, which is crucial when you're working around sensitive brake components. Because the frame folds down, you can store it against a wall when not in use, freeing up valuable floor space. I've already tucked it away after a morning of tire rotations, and it took me less than a minute to set it back up for an afternoon brake job. The main weakness I noticed is the noise level of the pump. When the hydraulic motor is running, it produces a steady whine that can be heard throughout the garage. It's not deafening, but if you're trying to have a conversation or run a podcast while you work, the sound can be a distraction. Also, the lift's maximum height is about 42 inches, which is sufficient for most passenger cars but a bit low if you need to work under a larger SUV or a lifted truck. In those cases, you either have to raise the vehicle on a set of ramps first or accept a more cramped workspace. Finally, because the unit is portable, the base plates are not bolted to the floor. They sit on rubber pads. On an uneven surface, you'll notice